Hello, and welcome to the Life and Mindset podcast with me, Tasha King. I hope you are all having an amazing day. I've literally just recorded this episode about an hour ago. I was sitting there talking into the mic for half an hour, only to realise after I'd recorded it, I looked on the recording and it hadn't even recorded. So that's how my day is going. But I wanted to start off this first official episode talking about change. So, with change, I feel like that was something that actually started off my personal development journey. I feel like that sparked something in me to actually shift my mindset into realizing that I could do whatever I wanted to do and whatever I put my mind to, because I always felt like I was very stuck in life. You know, when you're a kid and people tell you, "Oh, you can do whatever you want when you grow up." Like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And as a kid, you always say something, that's deemed now as unrealistic, like, I don't know, like a princess or something like that. If you're a girl, I don't know. If you're a boy, maybe a superhero. And then when you get older, those dreams are crushed because it's like, well, that's unrealistic. So you can't do that as a job. You're not going to make a living out of that. You need to have a job 9 to 5 where you're going to be earning money to make a living and to pay your bills. And that's exactly how it is. But it isn't actually like that. If you have an open mindset and you know that that isn't actually the only way that you can make money these days. There's I feel like social media is taken off, and I feel like there's a lot of people that are making money from their social media. And it's not just even social media in a sense. There's loads of different platforms like podcasts and things like that. um there's loads of things, I think, nowadays in this generation that you can make a living off. I feel like it's just the past generation obviously don't have that mindset. They don't see that vision because in their generation, it was literally what they were taught, that a 9 to 5 is the only way to do it. But I really just wanted to talk about change because, as I say, I feel like it's something that set off the vision for me. And change isn't something that I've always liked. I used to hate change. I used to avoid it like as much as I could because it used to scare the hell out of me. I literally worked a job for 5 years that I didn't like and that I absolutely hated because I didn't like change and I was scared of it. And I think the thing that scared me about change was the unknown. You're going into the unknown and you don't know what's going to happen. So, this job that I worked for 5 years, don't get me wrong, there were good times, you know, and there were bad times. I feel like it was a very toxic place and a very toxic, most of the people were very toxic, and very just all about themselves and fake. And it's only when you look back and, if your eyes are open to that, then you know that not everybody is your friend, but everyone is there just for the same reason, to do a job, make the money, and go home. And that's it. And for me, that isn't something that I find appealing. I don't want a job where you just go there to earn the money and that's it. I want something that lights me up. I wake up every morning and I think, I can't wait to go back. I can't wait to do this thing, something that you absolutely love. But as I say, I was stuck in this job for 5 years because of the fact that I had major anxiety, um, and I just I didn't want to leave because I was really scared. I think I was more so because back then, all I wanted was for people to like me, which now I look back and I think back to it, I think that was so like cringe, like not cringe, but so naive of me to actually think that everybody should like you, and that if someone doesn't like you, it means that there's a problem with you, when that isn't the case. But that is the very typical mindset that I had. I was in a very negative mindset back then, and I used to let things get to me very, very easily. And I would let other people's opinions of me break us half of the time. Like, I used to really, really care what people thought about me. If somebody thought that I wasn't a nice person, or I don't know, if they would just attack my personality or my morals or whatever, I would literally just, it would literally like, it would eat at me. It really would. It would get to me because I always wanted to prove that person wrong. And I always wanted to make people, I don't know, I guess I wanted people to understand me. And I didn't feel like that was the case. But now I know that that isn't going to be the case. Like, not everybody needs to understand you as a person. And you only, you only show people what you want to show them, sort of say, and they will make their own opinions, and you can't control that. And at the end of the day, you you shouldn't let it bother you. You shouldn't let it affect your life in the way that I used to. But I know that now. But going back to that time, I was there for 5 years, and we got told that the factory was closing, and the only other factory that they had was not in England. So obviously, I wasn't going to move to a different country to have a job or keep a job that I was totally miserable at. That would just be crazy. So I ended up having to move to another job, get another job somewhere I'd never worked before. It was kind of the same setting, it was a factory, and I felt like I stuck to that industry because that was all I knew. Bearing in mind when I started that job, that where I was for 5 years, I was only 20, I think, when I started there. So I was still quite young and naive, and I still had a lot to learn out of life. So obviously, blessing in disguise, that's the way I think of it now, that, I was pushed to get another job and move out of that place. And I kind of feel like it was the universe telling me, like, come on, you need to move, you need change, and you need to stop avoiding it because it's not actually so bad. But obviously at the time I didn't think like that, and I was so anxious and I was so nervous. And obviously I was thinking negatively. I was thinking the worst. And I was thinking, I'm gonna go somewhere else, and all of the people are gonna be really, really horrible. And they're gonna be mean to me, and no one's gonna like me, and I'm just gonna be absolutely miserable. And that's just the way that I thought it was gonna be. I could not be more wrong. I couldn't have been more wrong. Because when I did actually find a different job, although I didn't find one straight away, but when I did, I remember the first day that I went in, and I was sat in the canteen, obviously waiting to start, and I never looked at anyone. I never made eye contact with anyone. And I just sat there by myself at the table. And there was other people at this table, by the way. I mean, I'd make eye contact if somebody spoke to us or said good morning or hi. I'm not rude, but in a sense of starting a conversation with someone. Mm-mm, no way. I just kept myself to myself. And then I actually remember there was a few people, like everyone was really nice and welcoming. And there was a few people that were like, is it your first day? And obviously, because new kid on the block, you can always tell when there's a newbie. So obviously, I go in, and the line manager was really, really nice, took me to where I needed to be. And the girls, that trained me, they were really, really nice. And everyone was really nice. And do you know what? I feel like I settled really well, really quickly into that place. It only took me a couple of days. Whereas normally, to settle into a job and into a new place with new people and people I don't know, it would normally take me a while. The job where I worked for 5 years, I remember I used to sit at the table by myself, like on breaks, because I didn't want to involve myself in other people's conversations, or I just avoided interaction altogether because I didn't know any of these people. And obviously, I know now that, if you don't interact with people, you're never going to know them, and, you're never going to settle in. And that's what you need to do. You just need to throw yourself into the deep end. But remember, I was this really shy, anxious girl, and I didn't have that mindset back then. And I just thought, avoid conversation altogether. So, this place, I did thrive and I did gain confidence. And I think it was more to the fact that because I'd actually realised, hold on a second, I used to hate change because I thought change was like scary, and I always used to think the worst. And actually, this isn't so bad. And maybe change isn't so bad after all. And obviously, I wasn't completely over it. I still didn't like the thought of things changing. But I was like, okay, this is the first step to realizing it isn't actually so bad. And everything that you know, every negative or worst thought that I've thought was going to happen hasn't actually happened. And don't get me wrong, you do get everywhere you work, there will always be somebody that you don't get on with or that doesn't like you and you don't like them. And do you know what I mean? You can't like everybody, and not everybody can like you. You're not everyone's cup of tea, and everyone's not your cup of tea. You don't like everyone. And I think I was starting to realize that isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad thing when somebody doesn't like you, and it isn't about you. It really isn't. It's actually more a reflect. It's actually more about that person, and it's a reflection of that person. You know, if you think about it, if you see, for example, this is how I used to think. If I saw a girl come into a room and she was really loud and rowdy and, laughing and carrying on, but she was like really, really loud, you know, I would look at that girl and I would think, Jesus Christ, like, who the hell is she? I would instantly dislike her. And yes, I know we shouldn't judge people when we don't know them. And you would think that girl has far too much confidence because she's too loud. But in reality, that's a reflection on me. And that was because I didn't have that much confidence. I wasn't loud and rowdy because I was very shy. So really, the reason that I didn't like that person, or that I was passing judgment on that person, was because I was insecure. I was insecure about not having the confidence, and maybe a little part of me wished that I was like that girl, that I could just walk into a room and, you know, not give a shit. But obviously I didn't. So sometimes when people pass judgment on you, it isn't about you, it is simply about them. But this place that I worked at for, I want to say around 8 months, I actually was happy there and I actually did like it. And the hours were really good. You used to finish at 3:30 every day, which, it was just the same every day rather than doing shifts where you were doing three different shifts where I was at the other place. I remember I used to do 6 a.m. till 2 p.m. and then the next week I would do 2 p.m. till 10 p.m. and then after that would be night shift, and I really didn't particularly enjoy night shift, and I always said that I would never do it again. But I actually did, and I don't know why. So I had to leave that place because they didn't have enough hours, so they had to let me go. So again, I had to change and move jobs again, which, yes, did make me a little bit anxious, but not as anxious as I was the first time. And I think it's because I'd had that experience of change before. So I thought, okay, it's not going to be so bad. So the next place I go to was another factory, again sticking to the same industry because it's all I knew. And I think changing to a different industry was just, I think that was just in a different level. And I didn't think I was ready to do that yet. So the next place that I went to, I managed to settle in quite quickly. And I surprised myself, to be honest, at how much confidence I had. And I did. I had more confidence than I'd ever had. And I was like a little social butterfly. I would literally just go around and speak to everyone. I mean, not everyone, not absolutely everyone, but the people that I'd made kind of friends with or whatever. And they were lovely. And like again, you're not going to get nice people everywhere. There are going to be some people that aren't very nice people. And it's just something that you have to live with, really, isn't it? It's just life. But I think I stayed there for about a year. But I did enjoy it the first 3 months. Um, and I was very happy. Knew the job, and I was quite content. But then, like with everything, something new, you get something new in your life and you love it and you're all excited about it and you're happy, and then the novelty starts to wear off. And I think that's what's happened. So I did start to get a little bit sick. Because in factories, anyone who's worked in factories, you'll know you're like a robot, especially if you're on the machine. And this was packing envelopes, and I was stuck to the machine. And the only time you could ever get off that machine was if someone came on for you, for a break, or if you needed the toilet or whatever, or if the machine broke down. And when the machine broke down, let me tell you, you ran. You made a run for it. You literally ran away from that machine. Get me off this machine. But I just felt generally like I was a robot. And don't get me wrong, I'm not putting down anyone that works in a factory. If you're working in a factory in that industry and you are happy with your job and you just want to go to work, earn the money, do your job, earn the money and go home, then that's absolutely fine. I'm absolutely buzzing for you. You're happy with that. That's great. You're content. But I think there is a difference between being content and being happy. So at the start, I was happy, then I was content, and then I was miserable again. And I just really felt not stuck, but like, I don't know. I don't know how to get out of this. Do you know what I mean? Because I'd only ever worked in factories, I was like, obviously, really wanted to leave and do something different, but I was really scared too because I didn't know what I was going to be getting myself in for. So I thought maybe an office job, you know, maybe that is what I need because that is the total opposite. So obviously I was going in work, and when I was off work, because you used to do like 12 hours, so it was like every 3 days you would be in 12 hours a day. And this was days and it was nights. And the nights were just absolutely awful. I couldn't even do 8 hours night shifts at my previous job, let alone do 12 hours. So I used to literally, every time I was on night shift, every night I would have 2 cans of Red Bull. I know. And you know what? I don't even like Red Bull, but I did it simply for the fact that to try and keep myself awake. It didn't work. It never kept me awake. I used to always have moments where I would like feel like I just needed to go to sleep, but honestly, it's so horrible when you're so tired and you just want to go to sleep, but you can't. So anyway, there was near the end of that job before I left, I actually I joined a network marketing company, and this was, even though it didn't work out, I am not, I don't regret it. I am so grateful for that happening to me. I feel like, again, that was another sign from the universe to be like, here you go. Here's like another thing to help you along the way. Do you know what I mean? Because when I started doing that, although it was something I'd never done before and I was a bit like anxious, because you see like there's loads of scams and things, isn't there? So you've got to be really careful. And I was like, do I go for it? Do I not? And I just went for it. And honestly, as soon as I joined this network marketing company, I was a part of something. I felt like I was a part of something bigger than myself, something that I've always wanted to be a part of. I've always wanted to have a job. I've always wanted to work somewhere for a company that actually gives a shit about you. So I know that most places you work for, they're all just in it for themselves, like the management. They're just focused on solely on the business and the money that's coming in. And yes, I get it, because when you've got a business, that's what you have to focus on, and you have to make sure that everyone's doing their job correctly, and that everything's running smoothly and you're making enough money to make a profit. I understand that. But there's being someone that's, focusing on the business and things like that, and then there's being a complete arse. So obviously the industry I worked in, the management, it was always a divide between the management and the employees. And it would always feel like you were just a number. You were just a number. They didn't care about you. They didn't care about your well-being and things like that. And obviously when you're somebody that suffers with their mental health, it's really not a good thing. You really need to be working for a company that says, yes, okay, I am paying you to do a job. I'm paying you to work and do a very good job. However, if you need me personally, if you've got any personal issues, or, if you're feeling really, really down, I am also here for you to help you. Because if they don't do that, and you're having a bad time of it, and you feel like you can't go to them to talk to them, it's going to affect your performance at work. It's going to affect it, which is then going to affect their business. So really, in my eyes, if you're a manager, you should be making sure your staff are okay, not just physically but mentally. And whenever someone makes a mistake at work, like in a factory, if you say effed up, it would always be a case of, oh, like, why did you do that, or things like that. It was never a case of, are you actually okay? You know what I mean? Is there anything that we can do to help you perform better? And honestly, I've got to say, the place that I'm at now, the job I work for, where I work now, they are 100% like that. They will actually approach you. If they think that, if you're underperforming at your job, the first initial thing won't be why you're so shit at your job and blah, blah, blah. It will be, are you okay? Do you need any help? Do you need any extra support? And that is what I've always wanted out of a job. I've always wanted to work for a company that doesn't just give a shit about your performance and about how it affects them, but actually gives a shit about the person as well. Because if you think about it, right, yes, okay, you're going to work and you're getting paid to do a job, but we are all human. We are all human, and we all have shit going on in our lives. and I realise that I'm rambling and I've gone off track a little bit. I did warn you. That's all I've got to say. But you are only human at the end of the day, and we can't always be on point and 100%. If you wake up one morning, one day, and you only have 50% to give, and you give that 50%, you've given 100% of yourself that day. That is just the way that I've got to think, that you think about it now, that I think about it now. Literally, that, because that's all you've got. But when you're working for these places, these companies, and the manager, you know, they're just shit. They've got no people skills at all. Because trust me, I've worked at a place like that before, and I'm about to get onto that. It's just, you just go in there, and it's a negative work environment. It's so toxic, so toxic. So going back to obviously that job, the network marketing, I joined the network marketing company, and it really, really did help me along the way. Honestly, I was brought into a community, and those girls, oh, I mean, I am still very, very good friends with a few of them, like still today. And, this still, we do keep in touch all the time, and they still help me, like, on a daily basis, with life stuff. Um, but as soon as I joined that company, that network marketing company, the community was just amazing. All of the girls were so welcoming, and they didn't just focus on the network marketing side of it. It was actually focused on you, like you as a person as well, like your well-being and your mental health and your mindset. And they did a lot of personal development. And I was quite surprised, because I thought, oh, this is just going to be business, 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 but it wasn't. And that was the great thing about it. So I learned so, so much, like literally so much about myself doing that network marketing, like working with that network marketing company. It was just great. And I remember the first time that I ever did a talking video. So, like, I wanted to start doing talking videos on social media, on my TikTok. And I hated the sound of my own voice. Absolutely hated it. Couldn't stand it one bit. And I think that's what put me off. Whenever I was, like, the first video I ever did, I remember watching it back, and I remember saying to my mentor, oh my God, like, who's going to want to watch that? And I remember sitting there thinking, God, people are just going to watch this, and they're going to be like, who the hell is she? Like, what on earth? Like, how cringe is that? But in reality, that's just my opinion of myself. And that was me being too self critical. Yeah, okay, maybe some people would watch it or whatever and be like, that's not for me, whatever. But people might actually watch it and think, oh, I like this girl. I like what she said there. You know what I mean? Like, what she said there really clicked with me. And these are the things that we don't actually think about. We always just think the worst. And we always just think that people are going to just judge us in a negative way. But in reality, that isn't actually the case. That's our own judgment on ourselves. And that's what we've got to realise. So obviously, I started doing the talking videos, and then I remember I used to do them, and then I used to look at the views, and if I wouldn't get many likes or views, I would think that I would reflect that onto myself and think that I was a problem and that I was doing something wrong, and like, what am I doing wrong? Do I need to do this better? Do I sound boring? Yes, I probably sound boring. Do you know, all these different thoughts going around in my head? And obviously at the time I was only focusing on the views that it was getting, and the likes and things like that. And then I stopped doing talking videos for a while, because I thought, oh well, everyone must find it's really boring, so I just stopped doing them for a while. And then I was very, like, inconsistent with the social media side of it, and I was finding it really difficult. But obviously that network marketing company, it wasn't my path, and it wasn't meant to be. um but again, I don't regret doing any of it, and I don't regret joining, because I feel like that was a part of my personal development journey, and that was the start of it, because that's what helped me to realize, and it actually helped to shift my mindset a lot. And it just, I really couldn't be more grateful for it, and I couldn't be more grateful for the girls that it's brought, the people that it brought into my life. Do you know what I mean? um I'm really, really thankful for it happening. But it really does, like, thinking back to all of that, like how far I've come. Do you know what I mean? I never ever would have ever in a million years have thought that I would ever be starting my own podcast. I don't know why, because I absolutely love to talk, as you probably already can tell, but I never would have ever dreamed that I would have sat there and said, this is what I want to do. I want to start a podcast, because I hated the sound of my own voice, and I was very, very insecure back then, which just goes to show that I've worked on myself so much. Those insecurities that I had before, they're non-existent now. Don't get me wrong, I still have insecurities, and I feel like everyone has insecurities. I feel like you're always going to have some sort of insecurity about something, and we all have flaws. We're not all perfect. But I think the part of it is realizing that you don't need to be perfect, because nobody's perfect. And I think it's about realizing that sometimes your flaws are actually what make you you. You know, everyone's unique in their own way. And if we were all the same, I'm pretty sure life would be very, very, very boring. If we all had the same personality, if we all had the same opinions, the same likes and dislikes, how boring would that be? So boring. But another thing that I think that we need to realize is that change, that is something that we need to go through in order to grow as a person. Can you imagine if your life always stayed the same? If you always stayed the same, I feel like that would be pretty boring too. Like, I am constantly, constantly, for the fact that it's really ironic, for the fact that that girl back then hated change, but I get bored of the same thing all the time. And I feel like this is why a 9 to 5 job isn't for me, because I'll start a new job, and I'll really, really enjoy it. I mean, this one I'm in now, I don't particularly mind it. I don't hate it. It doesn't make me miserable on a daily basis. So I am quite content. But that is all I am. I'm not ecstatic to wake up every single day and go and turn my computer on and start my job. I don't mind it. It's fine. Some days I actually do have really good days, because I'll speak to people. I work on the phones. If you didn't already, get that part. But some days I will speak to people on the phone, and I'll get a person that's actually really, really nice and really kind, and they might say something to me like, do you know what? I really, really appreciate your help. You've really helped me today, and you've made my day, and all of this. Like, have a great day yourself, and all of this stuff. Like, and it actually boosts my confidence, and it makes me happy to hear people say that, and to hear someone say that I've helped them so much. Because in my own personal life, I am really more passionate about helping people, and that's all I want to do, is help people. Like, I am the type of person that I like getting gifts for myself, don't get me wrong, as everybody does, but I appreciate more, and what I love more and get more joy out of, is giving someone a gift and watching their face as they open it, and making their day like great, and making them happy. That I get a joy, like such a joy out of that. And so my job can be quite rewarding sometimes. You might get someone that's really vulnerable, and it's really hard sometimes when you get someone that is really vulnerable, or they might have, I don't know, say a condition, or they might have just been like diagnosed with something at the hospital, and you are talking to them, and then they say to you, do you know what, you've really helped me, you've really made me smile today. And I think, and I didn't, and it's like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I haven't really done much but my job. That's all I've done. I've just done my job as I'm supposed to. But it's really nice when you get that feedback from people, because it's just so rewarding. It's so rewarding to think that you've made that one person happy. So that is less person, one less person that is going to be, say, unhappy that day, or miserable that day. They're going to walk around for the rest of the day, hopefully, for the rest of the day, feeling really happy because of the conversation they've just had with you that morning or that afternoon. So I really do think that it is nice sometimes, but again, it isn't my forever job. It isn't what I want to do as a forever thing. And that's okay, because it's okay for now. And I might say want to maybe progress into doing something else, in whether that be in my job or in something else. But I feel like you need to stop avoiding change. if you are if you are someone that avoids change because you are scared of what's on the other side of it, and you're scared of the unknown, the only advice I can give you is just do it. And even if you're anxious about it, just do it anyway. Just do it anyway. Just push yourself totally into that feeling and just do it, because once you get on the other side of it, trust me when I say, and I'm talking from experience, the feeling that you have, it'll just be amazing. And you might not be absolutely ecstatic about change, like even after that, but once you do it once, you can do it again and again and again. And each time you do it, you get like more of a confidence boost from it. So it really does help. It helps you in life. And I can't believe that the one thing that I always avoided is the one thing that actually helped me evolve into the person I am today. And don't get me wrong, I am not 100% in the place that I want to be just yet, but personal development, it is a journey and it's a process. And I feel like at the start, I was just waiting to get to the next step and the next step and the next step. And that's not how it works. You actually have to just throw yourself into the journey and the process of it. And you need to learn how to just love life along the way. Fall in love with the journey. Don't be constantly thinking about the destination. Like, just enjoy the journey, because trust me, that's where the great things happen. And then when you finally get to that destination, you'll have loads of great, happy memories and experiences that you've gone through on that journey, and you would never, ever, ever regret them or take them away now. It's honestly, change is good. It is good. And 2 years ago, never thought I would have said that. But it really is. It's really just the best thing ever. It's the best thing you can do for yourself. Because, let's be honest, who wants to stay the same? Not me. But I really hope you've enjoyed this, the first official episode. And I'm really excited. I'm really, really excited to make more episodes. I will try and post each week. I'll try and record episodes each week for you. I need to try and work this podcast around my job that I have now, but I do want to officially at some point, make this podcast into a full-time thing. So, it's just a case of I'm just going to go with the flow, take every day as it comes, and hopefully we can get these episodes out each week. But I really hope that you've taken something from this podcast today, like this episode. I really hope that I hope it's made you think about, your life and change and how you feel about things. And I hope it's opened your eyes listening to my own experience. I feel like listening to other people's experience of things sometimes does help, because you think sometimes when you go through an experience, you can feel like you're isolated, like you're the only person that's just gone through that, but yet there are 1,000 other people that go through that experience, that have probably had the same experience as you, and not everyone feels the same about every experience. But I feel like it just helps to know that you're not the only one. But like I say, I really, really hope that you've enjoyed today's episode, and I really hope that you've took something away from it and that it's helped, even just one person. Um, but yeah, but I'll speak to you next on the next episode, and I hope you have enjoy the rest of your day, guys.